Okay, I'm live. All right, so basically I'm going to show you how to draw a rectangular form just using a cardboard box. You can use anything that's laying around the house. You can use cereal, which is a cardboard box. You can use something that comes in a box, like coffee pots, anything laying around the house. Some things I'm gonna have to forego. Usually if I teach drawing, I show how to draw a pyramid. I do not, or I cannot think of anything that's a pyramid that's a household item. So be it, unless it's like a children's toy or something, but I don't have any of that at the moment. So if you look at this here, this is just a regular cardboard box from Amazon, and I'm gonna draw this, and we're gonna cover measuring today, and I already covered that in the last video, and we're also gonna cover citing. Citing is getting angles correct. So if you look at this cardboard box, that would be an angle here, and if you look at the cardboard box, it's my left hand, that would be an angle there. So that would be citing. You use your pencil to cite, but we're going to get into that in a minute. First thing you always have to do is measure the overall proportions, height versus width, or width versus height, meaning the short into the long. So if you're looking at this quick assessment, is the width shorter than the height? Easy, yes, absolutely. So you're going to measure the width first, and then you're going to compare it to the height. So you measure the width of the overall object from the farthest left side to the farthest right side, and then you're going to compare that to the overall height from the very top to the very bottom. And you're going to count. So your unit of measure is measuring the width, and then you count how many times it's in the form. So I'm going to do this looking at you so you can kind of see what I'm measuring. So what I'm going to do is put the tip of my pencil on the very far right side here. I'm going to slide my thumb down to the other side. So you can kind of see my thumb is on one side and my pencil's on the other. And then what I do is I turn it vertically, and then I count one, and I look where my thumb is. It's like kind of right where that little line is, and I can pull, actually I want the highest part, so that's the highest part. But see where my thumb is? It's like right there. So I'm gonna go down, and then I went to right where my thumb was, and it's basically a 1-to-2 ratio. It's a little short, but it's a 1-to-2 ratio. For me measuring in the camera, it's probably gonna be a little different once I turn around, because my viewpoint's a little different than the camera. I'm looking up at the camera, it's looking down. So things change slightly. And the camera distorts things a little bit. So I'm just gonna lean back and measure. And when you measure, you wanna close one eye, have one eye open, extend your arm out all the way, slide your thumb, put the tip of the pencil on the one side, slide your thumb to the other side. So this is kind of a box that's close to me, so it's taking up a lot of my pencil. All right, I have my width. I hold my thumb there. Do not move the thumb. Then I put the tip of the pencil at the very top, 1, and then 2. So this counts 1 to 1.5, whereas if I measured in the camera, it was 1 to 2. Two completely different measurements, almost the same viewpoint, but go with what you see here. So I'm just going to do a 1 to 1.5 ratio. So the first thing, just like we did with the cylinder form, I'm going to establish how wide I want my form. So if I want it this wide, I'm going to mark it. I'm going to get something, my pencil's just about big enough, but you can use anything that's laying around. You can use a ruler, whatever. All I'm doing is I'm just marking it. I'm not looking at the numbers of the ruler. I'm just marking it like this. And then I'm going to go up. That's 1. And then I have to add a half. So all I have to do is divide this in half. And I'm just kind of guessing what the halfway part would be. I'm going to see if they are equivalent to the right side's equivalent to the left side, which it is. So then I'm just going to take this measurement, and I'm using my pencil now. Take this measurement, and then I put it right here. And watch this little trick. I'm going to lean the graphite into the paper and mark it. You could have also just got your ruler like this, held the mark with your finger, put it right here, and add to the mark, and then put a mark there. Once you have your mark there, make a line. Now I'm using a 2B pencil today just so you can pick it up or see what I'm drawing. It's a little bit more greasy of a buttery of a graphite because we're sketching this out today. We're kind of learning the process. So it's not a big deal. You don't have to start with a very hard pencil. You can start with like a mid soft pencil. So like a HB, a B, or a 2B is fine. So this little mark that I put here and this mark I put here, I'm going to extend those lines straight up, because I'm just basically making a rectangle, a flat rectangle that this three-dimensional rectangle will live inside. I'm designating my highest point, my lowest point, my farthest right, my farthest left. It's hard sometimes to draw at an angle, so I have to stick my head in front of my drawing to see if I'm actually drawing vertical lines. Notice I'm going past the point of intersection, meaning like I'm going past the point of where these lines meet. I'm a little loose with my mark making, but I'm trying to keep my lines as vertical as I possibly can. I'm leaning my hand against the drawing board, which stabilizes my hand, and I'm sliding my hand, this side of my hand, up and down the paper, which again stabilizes my hand as I'm leaning it. Do not do this. That is a scared line. I want a confident line. Okay. The next thing we're going to do here is I'm going to erase this little mark so I don't confuse you guys. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I have to establish where this corner is. Take this out of the way. We don't need this anymore. Okay. I'm trying to establish where that corner is. It lives along this line somewhere. So how do you figure it out? You measure. You compare one side to the other side. That's the basis of drawing, is comparing one relationship to another relationship and making a really good guess, but the guess is very finite, if you will. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from here to here and compare it to the other side. So as I'm doing that, I'll show you what I'll be doing when I'm looking at it. So I'm going to measure from here to here, which is that corner, and that's the short side, and I'm going to count 1, 2. It's a little less than 2. This side counts a little less than 2 than that side. So I'm going to draw this out. It's funny because from my viewpoint, because I'm back here, and that's the only way I can measure, it's actually dead center, but for the sake of the drawing, I'm going to move my body over. You can see my bald spot though. 1, 2.5. So what I just did is I counted this distance right here. You can see between my fingers, trying to flatten it head out. 1, and I started with 1, and then I counted, oh my God, how am I gonna, 2.5. That was really hard for me to do in reverse, but meaning that if I put a mark here, actually, I'm sorry, because I'm doing this in reverse and I forget that it actually shows it in reverse. And I have to draw it the way I see it, so bear with me for a second. So if I put a mark right here, and I get this distance from here, and I count over in this direction, it should count 2.5 times. But remember, that's a guess. If it doesn't count 2.5 times, I move the mark. So what I do is I measure here, 1, and then I mark it. 2. That's basically a third. That's not it doesn't count 2.5 times in, it counts 3 times in. So I need to extend this line over to the right more. So I'm gonna erase it so I don't confuse you. So that's where it was. So now I'm gonna just move it to the right more. And now I do it again. 1, 2. Looks good to me. I think I can move it over just a hair, just to be on the safe side, because it felt like it counted 2.5 times pretty well. It wasn't like a light 2.5. So I'm gonna go with right here. I'll do one last check. 1, 2. That feels more like a 2.5. All right, so this is my mark. Right there, if you guys can see it. After you make that mark, you're gonna make a vertical line, which represents this way. Some of the rectangles starting to find its way in there. Instead of calling this a rectangle, because that's a rectangle, I'm gonna call this a cardboard box. Some of the cardboard boxes find its way in. We have this corner that is closest to us, right? Now, the next thing we do is citing. Citing is really important, so I'm gonna turn around to the camera and I'm gonna cite these angles. So whenever you cite, if you're citing something, it's gonna face you. Whenever you're citing something, always put your, I'm just gonna do this, always put your ruler 2 hands in front of you, just like so. And when you're citing something, I don't wanna block the form, you're going to angle the form right underneath the angle that you're trying to achieve, right? So this right here would be, this is parallel to the bottom of the camera. That would be, if you're thinking of a hands of a clock, 3 and 6, a perfectly horizontal line. And you can even tell that it goes up on an angle a little bit. So you can use this as a comparative element to say, oh, it goes up a hair, or you can actually just angle it up and look at your ruler and see if it goes up. Because it's so close to horizontal line, I would recommend doing this and just looking how much it goes up from an angle. So I'm going to do that. From my viewpoint, it goes up about that high from a diagonal. So what I do is I connect and I make a line. Now, how do I check that? What I'm gonna do is check it like this, and then I can bring the ruler there. I hope you kind of saw what I did, but yeah, you can see it. So I check this out, and then I turn my body without turning my arms. I kind of turn my torso, so I'm keeping this ruler as steady as I possibly can make it, and I'm kind of checking my math, if you will, just to see if that angle is correct. This is called citing. Citing is getting the angles correct. Think of this as a propeller of an airplane, and it's directly in front of you. It has to be parallel to your chest, okay? Can't go on an angle in space because there is no space here. There's a 2-dimensional piece of paper. There is no depth. So you can only kind of make lines like a propeller of an airplane. So now I have to get this side, and I'm going to check it out now. What I did there, I don't know if you can tell, but I found the angle, moved my body over to here, put this ruler right on the bottom corner, and brought it up to the top left hand, or saw where the ruler intersected this line. I made a visual memory of that, and I just made a mark right where that intersection was from this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna connect those two. Already this form's starting to work its way out. You can kind of see the bottom is somewhat accurate, and the overall proportion, the height versus width, is already established. We don't have to worry about that. I have most of the bottom done. All I have to do is figure out this top part, which is probably the most difficult part. Okay, so we cited, we measured. That's a lot of drawing, and you will learn so much from drawing this one object. And if you follow my process and you apply this to everything else, it works every time. It works. And the more you do it, the faster it becomes, the more you train your eyes to see these relationships that exist within translating three-dimensional objects onto a two-dimensional surface. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this corner here, okay? And try not to move the box when you're drawing it, because otherwise everything goes out the window. One little push back or forward or whatever, then you have to start over. This little point here, it lives somewhere along this line. It's probably around here somewhere, but that's a total guess. I want to give myself more information before I just kind of guess it out. I want to find a couple bits of information before I go that direction. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to measure the height of that. And if you look at me right now, see the back point is right here. The front point is right here. They don't really line up vertically, do they? So the highest point's a little over to that side and the front point's on this side. What I'm going to do is basically put my tip of my pencil on that back corner, slide my thumb down to where I think this corner is. Man, I cannot do this backwards. See how I'm going back and forth? Yeah, back and forth. There you go, kind of like that. And then once you have that measurement, then you hold it. And because it's so small, the only thing you can compare it to is maybe the width of the entire thing, because you have the width of the entire thing here. Don't compare it to one side, because that line isn't totally accurate, but the width of it's pretty accurate. So now I'm going to turn it sideways, and then I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, how many times it counts into the width of the form. So I'm going to do that because it's really difficult for me to do this in reverse. I'm going to do it here. And you'll see me moving my pencil around back and forth because I'm trying to line up the bottom of my thumbnail with that corner and the top of it with the back corner. Okay, I got it. It's really small. I don't see that much because my eye level is very close to the top of the box. I don't see that much. So it's going to count in this quite a bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counts in 8 times. That's a hard count to make. What I'm going to do is move this up. Remember I guessed right here? I'm going to move this up to about here. I'm going to take that measurement, just like I just measured this. I'm going to use my pencil, but except I'm going to slide my finger down to that mark I made and see if it counts in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Counts in 7 times. So I got an 8 count there. I have to make it a little smaller, just a little smaller. So I think I found it, and if I did this, I know it would count in 8 times. So that's the best way to do it. It's so small that if it's more than a 5 count, you can start to guess at that point, but it's about right here. Now this is where, that's the most difficult thing to teach in the classroom. But once you get that concept down and you find that little point there, here's where I lose some other students when I'm teaching this live. This is where you apply intuitive perspective. So we used measuring to figure out where the heck that point is, right? See this angle here? If I were to continue that forever in that direction, it should converge at a vanishing point, because the walls of perspective line parallel lines. In reality, this is parallel and this is parallel to each other, but in a flat image, they converge. So if you, actually I can kind of show you right here. If you were to follow this line out, this one converges towards it. They are going to meet at a vanishing point. Same with this one. This is so hard. This one goes in this direction, and if I go straight up, this one curls or angles towards it. They're going to meet at a vanishing point. So that being said, you can start to apply these lines as if they're going to converge to one another. But when you apply this line, do not go to the back top corner. This does not, that corner of that is not reserved for the highest part. The highest part is way back here. That line has to go back up. So what you can do, because we're drawing this, that back corner, you can kind of locate maybe where you think the back corner is. Looks like it's about right here, because that's when I was drawing this before. It's a little bit to the right of this corner. So what's going to happen now? I'm going to draw this line in, about right here. You could cite these angles too if you want, and get that information, but notice that I'm a little bit below. This is the corner, I'm below the corner. I'm going to bring it to this side. I'm going to take this side and bring this down. Now, this line and this line will eventually, way down there, will converge. But you can kind of see that I have the top of the box. It's from my vantage point. For you viewers at home, the top of this might look a little bigger, but from my viewpoint, because I'm a little lower than the camera that so I don't see that much. So that's about a little more accurate. But as you can see that this line and this line, they're all parallel. They're going to meet at a vanishing point. This line, and this line are also going to meet at a vanishing point way out there. This vanishing point is probably going to be closest. This is going to be further away. But remember, it's intuitive. It's because you've done that perspective project, you know that parallel lines converge. You have this idea set in your head. So it's when you put these lines in, you're just making sure that they angle towards one another so they would converge at a vanishing point. And that's it. Other than that, practice drawing boxes. Put another box here. Draw this box, right? If you want to get creative, put a box on top of something. Draw that box. You just need more room for your paper, so you can start with something small. However, I think I'm going to do another video where I stack boxes so you can start to practice drawing forms in relationship to other forms. All right, hopefully that is helpful.